Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about 3 books about astrology that are based on mythology. And I've got the 3 books here, and I'm going to show these books and talk a little bit about them. And I wanted to show these particular books because there are not all that many books that talk about mythology as a basis for astrology, even though Western astrology is based on the myths of the planets and the signs. So the first book is Mythic Astrology by Ariel Guterman and Kenneth Johnson, and this book was published in the 90s, and it's published by Llewellyn. And all 3 of these books I'm going to show are all published by Llewellyn. This one is out of print, but you could still get this on Amazon. And it's really my favourite book on mythic astrology. It's so well written, it's interesting, there's black and white drawings and illustrations throughout the book. And it's just a great book. I think it is the best book that has been written on mythic astrology. So for example, I'll just show you one of the pictures that's in the book. There's lots of drawings and black and white pictures in here. This is the chapter on Jupiter, and here is a drawing, black and white drawing of Jupiter, the god Jupiter here. So that'll just give you an idea of some of the drawings and pictures that are in the book. There's a chapter on each of the planets and the myths that are associated with each of the planets. And also part 2 of the book is the signs. So part 1 is the planets, each of the planets, and all of the myths associated with the planets, and then part 2 is the myths associated with the signs as well. So this is a great book. There is a later edition, I think this was published in the early 90s, and there is a slightly later edition that was published a few years later. It has a slightly different cover, and it has a brown cover instead of this one showing the night sky. And there was also a second book that was written called Mythic Astrology Applied, and by the same authors, but I wasn't as keen on that book. I was a bit disappointed on the second book. I think the first book is just so well done. I just was not as impressed with the second book. I think this book is really great. So this is Mythic Astrology by Ariel Guterman and Kenneth Johnson, and the subtitle is Archetypal Powers in the Horoscope. And very often mythic astrology is overlapped or called archetypal astrology as well. And I think learning about the myths that are associated with the planets and the signs is really quite important when you're learning astrology, because it gives you a much deeper understanding of the basic energies of the planets, and which is what astrology is really about. And it's interesting and satisfying to know the myths associated with the signs as well as the planets. It really helps to build that understanding, that basic understanding. The next book is a great book. This one is still in print, Myth Astrology by Raven Caldera. This is a great book, also published by Llewellyn. This book is not illustrated, but there's so much information in here it doesn't need to be illustrated really. This one's a bit different for two reasons. Raven Kaldera has written a number of books. He's a pagan author and I really like his books. This one is written from a pagan perspective as well as an astrology perspective, so that's really interesting. And this one's a bit different because it actually is about the planets in each of the signs. So where the first book separates all of the planets and talks about the myths and then talks about all of the signs and their myths separately, this one is talking about each of the planets in each of the signs, also from a pagan perspective as well as astrology. And I really enjoy this book because he has some really original ideas for the myths that he associates with each of the planets in the signs. So I think this is a great book. I really like it. And I think for people who are very interested in gods and goddesses will really like this book too. I think it's a great book. Myth Astrology by Raven Kaldera. And the subtitle is Exploring Planets and Pantheons. Also published by Llewellyn. The last book is also published by Llewellyn, and this is out of print as well. I don't know why. I think it's another great book. And this one is called Archetypes of the Zodiac by Kathleen Burt. It's not very well known, but it is a great book. I think this one was also published around 1990, and this is a mid-90s printing. This is illustrated. This one takes each of the signs, the whole 12 signs, and mentions the planets and myths within each sign. And it's from an archetypal perspective. It has a more Jungian approach. But it's not one of those books written from a Jungian perspective where the astrology seems to be a bit lost or a bit hard to sort of find with the Jungian overlay. This book isn't really quite like that. This book is a good combination of astrology and archetypes together. So I really like this book. This book is illustrated. This one has black and white illustrations as well. And I'll just show you one of those. For example, this is a great picture here of Mercury. So there is a black and white illustration for each of the chapters on each of the signs. So I really like that. So this book is out of print and you would need to get this on Amazon. I don't know how many copies are around because I haven't seen this book very much over the years, and as I was saying, I don't think many people know about it. But it's a great book, it's really good. Archetypes of the Zodiac by Kathleen Burt. Also published by Llewellyn. And I'll put the details below the video. And just before I go on a mythic theme, I want to show my wonderful little statue of Cernunnos, the Celtic god. I've had this statue for about 10 years and I love this statue. Very often it is on the chest of drawers behind me, but I decided to show this today because it's on a mythic theme, and I love this statue. And it is made of clay and it's painted green, so it's painted clay and it's very well done, and it shows Cernunnos with the serpent and his antlers here, and he's holding a torque. So I wanted to show this statue because I think it's really fitting for the mythic theme of my video today. So there are 3 books about mythic astrology, and I hope you enjoyed seeing those, and I'll put the details below the video about the books. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.